Welcome to the Cookbook, where you'll learn about the real recipes behind building a business. Entrepreneurship doesn't look the same for everyone, and neither does success. You'll hear from entrepreneurs of all kinds, tech founders, coaches, creatives, and spiritual entrepreneurs. People who've taken very different paths and learned powerful lessons along the way. We talk about the wins, the missteps, and the moments who shaped who they are today. I'm Iris Goldfeder, and this is the Cookbook. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am super excited for our guest today. Diane Titterton is my mindfulness coach, a dear friend. She wrote this brand new book that has like the book and the journal that I've done neither of, but we'll get into that in a few. But before we start, click like, share, subscribe, download. Keep us out there. Obviously, people need to hear our message because people are giving us really great comments, and I'm just thrilled to be able to keep doing this. So do something. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Diane on.
Hi, Iris. Hi. And thank you for having me on again, second time.
Oh my God, please. I know. Well, I featured you at the beginning of the month because I knew that you were going to be on at the end of the month, and I wanted to be able to at least start talking about write your own bloody self-help book. And the journal that I have done nothing with. But I was so excited because we've been talking about this for a while. And all of a sudden now it's
here. It's been in the pipeline for a while. It took a while, actually. I had an idea that I wanted to write a book. And actually, I jokingly say I wrote a book because a medium told me I was going to write a book. But that's not why I did it. But I had a potty training book. I don't know if that counts, but in my previous business, Dry Like Me, my business partner and I, Jude, we produced a potty training book. So it was a storybook for toddlers and with potty training advice for adults. We did that about 5 or 6 years ago. And it seemed like quite an easy process at the time. We had a huge team around us. And it just seemed like one day we said we're going to write a book. And then it felt like 3 weeks later we were on Amazon with a book. But it's different when you're doing it all on your own, when you haven't got a publishing house and you haven't got everything around you. And also I had so much content. Part of the reason I wanted to write this is for the last 6 years since I've been doing mindfulness coaching, I've been constantly speaking to different people, producing content every week, producing meditations, mindfulness content, and also just getting different perspectives when I meet different people and seeing how mindfulness can be applied to so many different situations and help so many different people. And I do love producing content and I love all that, but I felt I needed to pull it all in because I was drowning under so much content, and I just loved the idea personally and from a business point of view of having one book with my end-to-end process I do with clients so that I could work through one-to-one clients with it, but also so I can reach a wider audience because it is just me in the business and I can't be burning myself out.
And what is any of my stuff in here? Read it and find out. Okay. And speaking as, one of your clients, I mean, beside the fact that we're friends, we became friends through, being a client and stuff, but just having worked with you, the effect that you have, because I was like a basket case before we started working together.
We have worked very closely. And I think that's one thing I found. The clients, I haven't had like hundreds of clients. I've never really been in the game of doing that. I've always just wanted to work really closely with people. I get so much pleasure and satisfaction out of seeing mindfulness working for other people and being able to share the message. So a lot of the clients I took on right at the beginning, I've still got quite a few of them now. And I really enjoy that and I enjoy that time, but it takes quite a lot of my energy. So I felt I couldn't keep taking on even more clients. So now I will continue to take new clients, but that's not going to be a mass market. I can't scale that way. And running a marketing agency to make profit, you need to be able to scale.
Yeah.
And that was forcing me to stay small. I think, again, from the business point of view, I was deliberately not putting myself out there because I knew the more I put myself out there, I was the one that was going to have to deliver it. And one thing I've learned from going through this process that I've put in the book is what makes me happy, what's important to me. And that's balance. And it's freedom, a bit of freedom. And I like to be able to combine getting really engrossed in work, doing a project, working with clients, but then also have time to walk the dog, go to a yoga class, meet friends for coffee, travel, and do all these things. And it's quite a hard balance to have your own business that's growing and successful, as well as having your life that you love living. Mm-hmm. And actually part of the book, this is basically what the book does for other people. It helps them discover what it is, what their happiness is, whatever happiness means to them, and helps them get towards that. Because a lot of people, I think, don't believe that they've got the agency over their life to be able to make a lot of decisions and really balance these things up, because they think, well, I've got to pay my mortgage and I've got to go to work, so I might as well just go on with it and I'll start living my life when I retire. But
which is terrible, right? Because, you don't have the energy, and, you can hurt yourself very easily and then not be able to do stuff like.
Yeah, none of us are promised tomorrow. No. And also the life is for living now.
Yeah.
And even if you still have to be going to work, doing the same job, that even if you dislike it, there's other ways that you can introduce a lot of things that will bring you happiness into your life. But it does take, the only person that knows is you. And you have to look inside. And that's a hard part for so many people. They don't want to look inside because they don't want to feel maybe some of the negative feelings that might be in there, like disappointment that they haven't found happiness just now, disappointing that maybe their job hasn't worked out the way they thought it would, their relationship, all these things. It's the sort of the what ifs.
And I think that, just like opening this up to, the intro, and it's like, first let's address the term self-help. I don't love the stereotype it carries. This book isn't just for people who think they need fixing. It's for ambitious high achievers who know there's more out there for them and are willing to go after it. And this is empowered self-help. And I think that that's where the difference is, right? Because there are so many freaking, self-help books out there. And, what was the one? There was one like in the 60s and 70s that was like, I can't remember what it was, but I read it and I can't remember what it was, but it was like this, I'm okay, you're okay. Like, what the fuck is that even? I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm okay, you're okay. And I remember reading it and going, oh, and then I got to the end of the book and I was like, oh, like,
yes, what do I do with that? That's
no, and everybody's like swearing by it, right? Yeah. And the whole mindfulness thing, it just makes you, it just makes you slow down and be present. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just being able to slow down and present. You all have heard me talk about the time when I took Heather's car in for the tires and all that. And I was frustrated because of the guy, and he pissed me off. And, I was giving him 90 seconds. And then I was like, I'm going to give him till the time I get home. But I was able to control that time. And that was when I knew. And I texted Diane like the minute after. I was like, oh my God, I did it. Because for the first time, I didn't get pissed off for a week or a day or, whatever. And
despite you feeling that huge, huge, intense emotion, it didn't overwhelm you. You were still you watching that emotion. And you were feeling it, which is great. And we need to feel our emotions. That's what they're there for. They're messengers. But we need to be the ones to say, actually, I see you, I feel you, I understand you. Now let's just decide how I want to respond and not react. And it's that impulsiveness. And we say in mindfulness, it gives us that space between the action and the reaction, which means that we can take a breath and then choose how we wish to respond.
Yes.
Which is great in life, great in business, great with relationships as well. They say that's one of the reasons mindfulness is really important for relationships, because it helps us. And then your other point about the autopilot, I think that's where mindfulness really comes into its own. Naturally, we spend about 50% of our day on autopilot. Naturally, we also have a negativity bias. Put the two of them together, if we're not paying attention, then we're going to be away like dreaming, daydreaming, on autopilot, in default mode, and our mind just goes to the worst case scenario. So no wonder we think we've got a terrible life, because that's what we're getting lost in that. And when we're lost in autopilot, we're not fully experiencing life. you think we were given these senses for a reason, and that's how we live our life. We experience it in the here and now. And I liken it to when we were young, we seem to be able to, we've got a lot of memories, very vivid memories of when we were young, but very often we can't remember what we did 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
And I think a lot of that's
true.
because when we're young, we're so present. We're not thinking about the past or the future. When we're young, we're fully immersed in the moment, and we're curious. We're so curious about what we're doing. We're not thinking, oh, I've done this 100 times, I know what I'm doing. We're in it. We're working out. And I think that curiosity is a really important way to live.
And one of the things that I always go back to in my head, and I talked about this, I think in a video that I did, or maybe it was in your post. No, I think it was in the post that I did on LinkedIn when I said, ask her about the people in the car. It's all that negative self-talk, right? And who do you want riding with you? And that really stuck with me. It was like, well, what do we do with this one? Just throw her on the roof or kick her out of it. Talk about that for a minute, because I think that, I think it's really important that was one of the things that helped me with the negative speak was, who do you want in that right side? And it was like grandma, because grandma always, encouraged me and, whatever. And then, mom was in the back, whatever. And so, and I think that's really important. So,
and I think we do.
It's like techniques, I guess, right?
Yeah, it is. It was just a bit of an analogy. I remember just thinking of the analogy, like we go around with all these people in our heads, and it is a bit like living with them. It's like sometimes it's like living in a really toxic household. Right. With all these things going on in the middle of a demolition site.
Right.
And I think it's being able to think, and I think when we can personalize it, we can see where those voices come from. So we can see that it's that it's the inner critic, it's the harsh critic. And I know that the clients I've done this exercise with, they're the ones that are normally riding shotgun. It's that inner critic. Why are you doing that? You're not going to go the right way. You're doing it all wrong. That's not good enough. Start again. And it's I don't know where that comes from. Partly it comes from our upbringing. Partly I think we're human. We're community animals. We're meant to live in a group. So I think we're always trying to fit in, and we're always worried about what other people think of us and the judgment, and about making mistakes and getting it wrong. And that can really hold us back. And I was think so many dreams are lost because we give up or we talk ourselves out of it rather than through failure. And what a shame. That's such a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine if you would have talked yourself out of writing this.
It would have been so easy. Do you know, it would have even been easy for me to talk myself out of being a mindfulness coach, to say, just keep it as a hobby and go and get a proper job, like a 9 to 5. I think so many things. I would probably still be married if I had taken that as well. That was another thing, that it would have been so much easier to stay married, to stay, not to rock the boat. I mean, my children are perhaps the most important thing to me. And I knew going through a divorce was going to have such an adverse effect on them. And I had to really dig deep and think, I need to do this for me. I need to put myself first. And there were so many times I thought, why can't I just stay? Why can't I just be satisfied? Because I remember for years I had a New Year's resolution just to be more grateful for what I've got. And I thought that my issue was I just needed to work harder to see the good in everything. And it did help. I was never desperately unhappy, but I was never ever going to be completely happy. And it was me making do. And somehow at some point I realized actually I deserve more than just making the most of what I've got. And it's only me that can do it. And I had to do the really hard things. And I think that was possibly one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I used my mindfulness. That's when I relied so much on my mindfulness and meditation, to be able to just go and sit in a quiet place just for 10 minutes and find that stillness inside me. And also in negotiating a divorce as well, to be able to not get caught up in that and to be able to think before I was speaking and not end up. So I feel very proud, and of my ex-husband as well. This wasn't all me, that we actually had a very amicable separation, and there was no accusations or no bad words, and we try to make it as painless as possible for each of us and for the children as well. And I put a lot of that down to my mindfulness practice.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. And I think, putting yourself first is always hard. Having the hard conversations is always hard. And I think, I had to have a hard conversation a couple of weeks ago that I've been putting off for like months. And then finally, and I wasn't even going to say anything. And then, we were in a conversation and I was like, I'm just going to, do it. Because I had, you're going to be shocked, meditated on the night before. I was thinking about it and kind of going, okay, what do I need to do this, but how am I going to do it? And then it just came out and it turned out fine.
Yeah. And that's such an act of self-trust, isn't it? That you were able to do that and you were able to coach yourself through that and be with yourself and have the self-compassion to think, I've been putting it off, but actually I'm going to do it and I will feel better afterwards.
Yeah. And I did. As soon as I said it, it was just like,
yeah. And the weight of that on your body, if you'd kept that in, that it can cause illness. They say that, Gabor Mate and the work he's done, where emotions, we hold emotions in our body. Mm. We need to be able to release them. Otherwise it can manifest as illness.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And you just have this you have this way of, bringing out, it's so easy to talk to you about, this stuff. And, you call me out on my shit all the time, which I love, right? Like people need to do that. Like people, I mean, I'm a strong personality and I know that. And you're like, no problem. You're like, do the thing. It's like, okay. But, this is still blank. I'm just saying.
I've still got work to do.
I know. And we were joking about, we have our friend Steffi, who was on my podcast. She's the plant-based coach. We're all friends and, she's already reading the book and probably almost done with it. And she's already filled the damn journal. And I'm like, I haven't done anything yet. But
so the journaling, that's part 2 of the book. So part 1.
Yeah, I wanted it. Okay, go ahead. I want to talk about the book though first, and how it kind of leads into, because there's journaling prompts in the book. Yes. So
that's part 2 is all the journaling. So part 1, the very first thing we do in the book is look at managing stress. Because I do think if you're living in stress, and so many of us are, you can't do anything. You can't start looking inwards. That part of our stress response is that we're monitoring the outside world for threats. So all our awareness is outside. We're not actually looking inside. And also when we're in that fight or flight mode, that's not logical thinking. We haven't got time for that. The part of the response is it shuts down that part of our brain so that we can get ready to fight or flee. So if we're in that fight or flight, we can't ever really do any sort of self-development, self-growth, or really understand better. So we need to try and eradicate some of that and manage that stress, first of all, get ourselves into a relaxed state, and then we can start looking at these things like switching off autopilot, managing our thoughts, managing our emotions. That's the next stage. All the sort of the mindfulness things that we've worked together on. Uh-huh. Starting a meditation practice. And these things, they buy back time so that you can then start looking into these, the part 2, the journaling time. Because I know a lot of people don't have time every day to sit and journal. But if you start doing mindfulness and meditation, you'll start becoming more efficient. You'll start making better decisions. You'll start being aware when you're sitting on social media for half an hour, scrolling and wasting time. So then that's where you find your time. You've got the awareness of where you can find your time to then do something for yourself that's going to make you feel good and make you feel better and build your self-trust, build your self-confidence, and build your awareness of what's going to make you happy. So we do that on part 1. Part 2 is journaling. So the idea behind the journaling is that your journal's like your therapist, or it's like your best friend who also happens to be a therapist. So journaling's a great tool because it helps you, particularly with the mindfulness. The mindfulness gives you the awareness. The journaling helps you to very gently unfold from inside what you're really feeling deep down that you might not know. When I speak to people and say, what would make you happy? They go, I don't know. No idea. One of the journaling prompts are, what's a toy or a game you used to play with as a child? So things like that. So that's like something that used to make you happy. So you start writing about that. What's something that you've done in the last year that lights you up? You write about that. So you're starting to build this picture of what it is you like, what your fears are, what's holding you back, what your beliefs, your underlying beliefs are, what you're grateful for. That's another key way of finding out what's important to you. The things are people, pets, places that are important to you. So through those guided prompts, we start to build up this picture of what your goals could be to enhance your happiness and to make sure that you're living a life that you want to be living, not the one you think you should be living. And also in that part too, that's where we're also highlighting the things that may hold you back. So we some of the prompts start to bring out things like any judgments, any like your levels of self-worth at the moment, your levels of self-trust, how you really feel about yourself, so that when we get to part 3, when we're actually then setting goals and thinking about activating the new you, the person that you're going to become, we then look at, okay, what are the potential fears that could trip you up? And we can go back to day 16 or whatever and read what you wrote in there. That's going to tell you what your fears could be, what could potentially trip you up. And that's why it's called Write Your Own Self-Help Book, because you've written it. And then part 3 is just all about then distilling it into a way that's going to then help you set the actual goals, break the goals down. And then from there, you can then do vision boarding. You could then put them on a vision board, which isn't part of the book, but I've got the online course for vision boarding.
Wow, that's awesome. It's just so awesome. And it's so, like, I love holding them. I need to open them, but I love holding them. I mean, they're just, I'll get there. But, the journal.
And my daughter was laughing at me because she did a reel about the unboxing. And all you see me when you watch other people on like Instagram or whatever doing unboxing, and I always think they're all like, whoa, and they're all really animated. When you see me doing it, I was just like, oh my God. Oh, it's so good.
I didn't even think of that. I should have done that when it came. I was so excited when it came. I was like, oh my God, it's here. So I ripped the box open. I was like, oh, tissue paper, rip the paper off. Like Steffi would probably be like, have the camera here and here's the tissue paper. And look at how pretty it is. I'm not making fun of her. I love her. She's just so much more organized that way than I am. I'm just like, it's like at Christmas, right? It's like, rip the thing up. Oh, pretty paper. No, fuck that. Just like rip it in. Get right to it. The cover and everything and the design was really important to me. And actually I met a lady I used to work with in our Dry Like Me days yesterday, and she was saying about how, you've always been very creative and you've always had a vision, and when you've got a vision you want to make sure it happens exactly as it does, as you see it in your mind. So is this like a thumbprint or fingerprint?
No, it's actually, but the idea was that it's like a thumbprint, but it's a tree ring.
Oh, okay. Just so y'all can see that.
So that's like the idea of the personal growth. And I love the idea that in a tree the growth is private. It's inside. You can't actually see that growth.
So cool.
And this is a bit like this, cool, because it's all happening sort of gently and in your own time. And that's part of one of the target markets I was thinking that could benefit from this is men, because I think they find it harder to speak to other people about what they're going through. And also so many men are brought up with this idea that men don't cry, men don't talk about emotions, and that your other male friends are going to laugh at you if you start talking about your thoughts and your feelings. Yeah. But certainly the men I've worked with, they've all got exactly the same thoughts and feelings and a lot of the same emotions as women have. We've got very often a really good support network where it's okay to like get your best friends round and have a glass of wine and a cry and tell them everything you're feeling. But I think men are lacking that support. So this is a really nice way for them to be able to do it on their own. They don't even need to come to someone like me and talk about it. They can just really quietly go on with it and go through that. And I do think, well, when they say is that the men really struggle with their mental health, and actually suicide's a big issue for one of the biggest killers in men under 40. So you think men need help and support, and I think very often they're forgotten about. And so I'm hoping that this reaches them as well.
Yeah. And, for all of you guys that are out here listening, and I think that's a big thing that's happening, here. Is this like toxic masculinity, right? It's like, it doesn't have to be that way. Men are, and I don't understand, don't cry. Boys don't cry, men don't cry. It's like, why the hell not?
Yeah. It seems
a weak person, right? It's like, I think I think that has them, grow up with no empathy.
Yeah, because they cut themselves off from emotions. That's the trouble. They're completely cut off. Yeah. And the issue with that is that if you cut yourself off from the negative emotions, you can't like selectively numb emotions. You either feel them or you don't. It doesn't matter whether the good emotions or the bad.
Yeah.
So I see people and I think they're completely numb from the neck down. It's like they just don't feel anything. And again, I think what a waste. You're missing out on so much good, but you can understand it as a coping mechanism. Yeah. I'm not allowed to think about how I feel, or so let's just not go there, just keep working. And I think the big response to that very often is I'll work harder, I'll achieve more, I'll get more success in different ways. So I'll climb the career ladder, I'll get more money, I'll get the right looking girl. And I know that sounds a bit of a stereotype.
But I mean,
the extreme. And I think then a lot of people get to retirement age and then think, who am I?
Yep.
And actually what is left in my life now that part of my identity is gone. And I think that can leave a lot of people feeling very lost.
Yeah. And I think that when, I was talking to somebody in my life, I'm not going to say who, but, and he said it was really easy to just disconnect. And I forgot, he used a specific word. I know we talked about it and I can't remember what word he used. But it was just easy to, something bad happen, disconnect, go on to the next thing. And then there were no ties, there were no whatever. And now, he's 7 years older than me. So, he started going for therapy and he started getting in touch, with his feelings and stuff. And it's interesting. I mean, he's still jaded. I think he'll always be jaded, right? But he's more open than he's ever been. And to see that was really, it was really pretty cool. But it made me sad that he had to wait until his 70s to do it. I kind of felt like if he could have been able to not disconnect, because his childhood, sucked.
Yeah.
It was what it was.
And a lot of people had that, didn't they? That's very common, isn't it?
I mean, I had it. And I think, for me, I look at my child, and it was funny. I was talking to a friend of mine and she was like, oh my God, I had no idea that you were homeless and like all these things, because I don't talk about it, right? It's not something that, I mean, if you listen to the podcast, but, I don't really talk about it because I don't identify like that. I mean, that's part of maybe who I am, but that's not the be all end all. But, it was just so funny. And then, talking about it and then seeing how going through all that, I was throughout it all. I always had a good heart. I was always empathetic. I never lost that. And it's like, how? Like, how?
Yeah.
Like I had, one relative who's like, I can't believe you didn't grow up to be a serial killer. I mean, with the shit that you went through, right? And I was like, I mean, you're not wrong, but, there's something.
Yeah, that strength. There's strength inside your strength of character
something. I don't know.
In yourself as well, some sort of faith or trust in yourself that you were able
I always knew I was meant for something. It was so weird because, trust me, there were times that it was like, not being here would have been a lot easier. But I always knew that I was meant for something greater. And I still don't know what that, well, now I know what it is. We've had that conversation, but
so important though.
Yeah.
I think I've probably told you this story before about when I went to Auschwitz and we did a tour around Auschwitz.
Yes.
And at the time, I remember thinking, how did anyone survive this? Why would there was an electric fence on one side, and the guide was telling us a lot of people would just run into the electric fence because they just didn't want to live anymore. It was just
oh my God.
And at the time, standing there, seeing everything I'd seen, I thought, why didn't everyone do that? And then after I came back from the trip, I found a book by Viktor Frankl, he was a survivor of Auschwitz.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And what he found was the people that survived were the ones that had something to live for. They had a purpose. Wow. And so that then made me start thinking, okay, finding our purpose.
Oh, God.
Finding our purpose is so important. If it can make you survive or help you survive something like that, that shows how important it is to us. And then in my research, I found a quote, which is in the book, which is from one of the Gnostic Gospels, the Gospel of St. Thomas, or Gospel of Thomas. I don't know if he was a saint. But he said, apparently it was in his gospel, but they believe it was Jesus that had said it, but obviously it was never included in the Bible. But he said, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And I think that's your purpose is what makes you become what, and that links in with what you were saying. It was that knowing you were destined for something that was enough to keep you going through those tough times. So you've had exactly the same. And this feeling that if you can't find purpose, it destroys you. And when I look at older relatives that survived well into their 90s, they were the ones that still worked in the charity shop, volunteered in the charity shop, still went shopping for their neighbours. They were very active, and they had things, they got up out of bed every day and they were doing something they loved and doing something for someone else. Doesn't mean you need to be Mother Teresa. You can just be doing it for a neighbour or for yourself as well. In that way, it's like looking after yourself. But I think having that passion and that purpose is so important. And that's another reason why I wrote this, because I thought, yes, I want to help people. And I love working with people that I've got, like you said, I knew that I was destined for something. I didn't know what it was. That's the people I want to work with, the people that think, right, come on, let's do the work and let's do it.
Yeah.
Rather than sitting back and going, oh, life is shit. I don't like this. Oh, nothing ever works for me. And I hate my job and I hate this, but I'll just accept it, because I think we have so much power than we actually realize we have, but we don't always have the tools or know how to go about it. And I think that's what you were saying about the other self-help books. You read someone else's story and it was great for them, but how do you apply that to your own life?
Yeah. It's like
you need tools.
Yeah. And I think, for me, just as I have seen so many different therapists in my lifetime. And I remember one in particular that I told her, she was new, and I told her my story and she started crying. So I just paid her. And I was like, thank you, you're not right for me. And I, paid her and left. But what was really funny was we met through Nina's, video thing. And I was like, mindfulness, whatever. And then, we were talking about it. And then you and I met a couple of times. And then that fateful day that I smashed my phone on the ground. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I texted you or whatever. And I was like, I think it's time because I felt myself really losing control. And it's not. And, I was angry as it was, and then COVID, and then not being able to control it. So between you and then my, therapist up in Chicago, in the first 6 months, it helped immensely because I realized why I was freaking out was because I couldn't control what everybody else was doing.
Yeah. And I think when we're stressed, we try to control what's going on outside of us. When we feel out of control, we try and control outside, which actually we can't do, which makes us feel more helpless. But if we can bring our awareness inside to us and what we can control, then that gives us it makes us feel more in charge of our own destiny. And also it helps us take steps that actually we can positively change and make change for us.
And to realize that that you are out of control, and that and that it's like, ooh, I need to reel this in somehow. But not even just to realize it, to actually work with somebody that was able to fix it.
Yeah.
Because that was not,
I was going to say, I think realizing it, you're not giving yourself enough credit there, because realizing it is really important. And that's not easy when you're in it. It's easy now to look back and say I wasn't in control, but you noticed it at the time. So you had.
Oh yeah, I mean, as soon as I picked my phone up, I was like, I got to call her. This is not good. I mean, and I knew, and I remember I told you, I was like, this is what I did, and I knew that it was time, to start. And when we started, what I loved about it was you knew who I was already. You knew my ADHD. You knew it was going to be like herding cats, right? I mean, you knew all of this going in, and you still took me on. And within 6 to 8 months, like I completely felt the change. I felt, like I didn't have that, in my gut all the time. And now it's been 6 years. And, it's like night and day. I rarely get that angry. The only thing that can make me that angry is Piper, my dog.
Yeah. And it's okay to still get angry. That's okay. We're allowed to get angry. It's how we not manage the anger, but manage ourselves through the anger. That's what changes. So it doesn't control us. It doesn't grip us.
Yeah. And the fear, right? Because there's fear involved. There's a lot of different things. And, and then the spiritual piece, being able to, embrace all of it, I think is just, I feel very lucky, I really do. And I think that, I know you can't work with everyone in the world, but who you can work with, I would get hold of Diane, but,
and you did the work. I think it's also important to note that you did the work, you put the effort in, and you kept the practice up. Because a lot of people, they do it and then they get to a level and think, I'm okay now.
Oh yeah. But with a lot of, did you meditate? Yeah. But you do like the accountability thing.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought that was huge. And, and what I find funny now, or not funny now, but, I take a bath and I meditate. When I take a shower, I do mindfulness. When I drink my coffee, in the morning or whatever, like I'm so much more present in the moment than I've ever been. And I think that that's the difference, because that's when you can actually control the things. When you are in that moment and, you're angry, but that moment's going to pass. Right. And that's the biggest thing, because for me, it was just like, how do I get out of that cycle? Because it just felt like this, I was angry and I was just going to stay angry because that's how it was. And I didn't realize how negative I was. Like, I didn't realize all the things until I wasn't.
No. And it's so easy to stay angry like that. stuck in that loop, because you feel the feelings, anger, you get stuck in your head, and then you start thinking these feelings to justify your own anger and going over it and ruminating over it, which then just your body doesn't know the difference between a memory and what's actually happened. It treats them all the same. So when you think, oh, I'm so angry, I can't believe he said that to me, your body acts as if it's happened. So it just releases all the same hormones, all those same emotions, which then triggers more thought. So you get completely stuck in that loop if you don't have the awareness.
Yeah. And when I realized how negative I was, I remember saying to a couple of my friends, I was like, how did you stand being around me? Like, I would have been like, I don't want that energy near me, right? Because it was like really, negative. And it's just, to me, I just kind of go, okay, it's like a whole different world. But the piece about journaling and what I find, and I just have to use, me as an example. When you make me journal, I journal.
Yeah.
Right. When you're like, okay, you're going to write down what, and I'm like, okay, and I do it. I'm just hard. I mean,
I think the issue, not the issue. Okay.
The issue, Iris. Okay, go ahead.
Plain speaking, calling you out. Your brain works really fast, and your thoughts go really fast. And I think that's part of the challenge of journaling for you. And that's part of the reason journaling would be so good for you, because it forces you to slow down your brain. So when we're journaling, and I always say to people to journal in sentences, I know when we've done things before, you've tried to do lists, and I've been like, no, we're not doing a bulleted list here. We're writing.
I know, you're like, for 5 minutes. I'm like, 5 fucking minutes? Are you kidding me? I can write for 5 minutes. Like, what the hell is this? Yeah. But I'm writing, and I'm like, is it 5 minutes yet?
But that slows our brain down.
Yeah.
And when we form sentences so when we're thinking, we're not actually thinking in sentences, not in full sentences. And a lot of the stuff that's going on beneath the surface, we can move it. When we write it down, we move it from that subconscious emotional part of our brain into the more logical part of our brain. That's where sentences live. And that's our logicking part of our brain. So actually, it can really help us untangle thoughts when we write them down. And it helps us slow down enough to be able to untangle them. And also when we see them then on paper, it feels like a release. So if it's journaling about things we're letting go of, then that's a really great way to release it. And sometimes just having it on the paper. I was talking to someone earlier about this today, and she was saying that she's been journaling and she's found it's great because it's just got it all out her head. And when she gets out her head on paper, it's like a relief. She can let go of it. And that can be good to do in scrap paper and just rip it up, put it in the bin. And then you don't need to read it again. Because I think that's one of the things that puts people off journaling. They say, I don't want to read it. You don't have to read it. Particularly if it's a letting go, you don't have to read that. It's useful. It's useful to read the positive things, and what we're doing in part 2 of the book, it's useful to refer back to that and to get insights from it. But you don't need to worry about, a lot of it can be really random things that are going on that come out your head. But I think that's slowing down, and to be able to get it and then being able to then read it back from a different perspective, because when you're reading it, and that's when you and I work and I ask you after you've written it to read it to me, because that helps you hear it as well and see it from a different perspective. So that helps you process it in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does. And I have, it's in my thing, but I use one journal with you.
Yeah.
It's leather bound and, all that. And that's the one that I use. And, what I started doing, because you told me to do this, is like, when you wake up, you want to journal. And I'm like, I can't with the dogs because they'll eat Piper will eat my book or whatever. So you're like, talk it, into your, do a voice memo. And I started doing that, and then I stopped. And I think that's the thing too, is, for me, it's like, I'll get in it and I'll be on it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, I stop. Because I don't know, like something stops me. And or I forget one morning and then I just, forget. So I try to, I'm trying to be more consistent, but the mindfulness thing just kind of, that piece just became who I am. Like it just became a part of me.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought was cool. Yeah. Was when.
And that's where you're getting the benefit. Because I always say to people, in the times, the rough times when the challenges come, you fall to that level of your training. And if you're consistently doing your mindfulness practice, you'll never fall far. And even if you lose it for 90 seconds, 3 minutes, or have a really tough day, because we all have tough days, and it's okay to have a tough day and to feel that it's all got out of control. That's part of the human experience. And we've all still got that human part of us that will just completely freak out. It's like sometimes we have like a 3-year-old inside us that just wants to completely scream and shout. And that's okay. And that takes a bit of self-compassion as well, to be okay with that, to accept all the different parts of us. That sometimes we've got a part of us that would just, that you can have the most horrendous thoughts coming through your head. And
you're like, no, I don't want to think.
I'm meant to be a mindfulness coach. What would people think if they could see inside my head? But actually, I'm human.
Next wine, I want to know what it's about. but and to your point with that, it's like, it's so easy to, and I think that you give me, you've allowed me to give myself grace for this, is that I can be an asshole for a day. It's going to happen. Like,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like, we're not perfect, and you just have to give yourself grace. And I'm not saying go out and be an asshole every day and then be like, oh, well, I'm being, but when you have those moments, you are human, and it happens. I mean, I try to be the best that I could be. I try to do the most good that I can, where I can. And then there are days that I'm just like, fuck off and die. It's like, just get the fuck out of my face and go walk off a cliff. And then I'm like, hours later, I'm like, oh my God, why did I think that? And then I was like, no, I was right. I was okay to think it. Yeah. I didn't literally push them off a cliff. I didn't do anything bad. I just, in my head, thought it. And I can give myself that grace now.
Yeah, that's right. So, and I think the difference is you're doing, and you're always in your heart with it. And that's what keeps us strong and steady, isn't it? It's like heartfelt. Yeah. So you'll never, even though you're thinking these things, you'll never take bad action. Because
no. And I never did. And even when I had really bad thoughts, I would never, act on them. But it, it's, and especially owning a business, right? It's like, I used to have, and I don't anymore because I only work with people whose values and mine align. So it's cut a lot of that out. But man, I remember in the beginning, like 11 years ago when I started this, I would be working with someone going, God, you're a dick. Like, I wish I didn't have to take your money, but I do because I have to, survive. And to not have that now is amazing. To look at, like, seriously, every single one of my clients and just be like, oh my God, I love you so much. Like, I love your soul. I love your heart. I love your, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel so grateful and, blessed really that I get to work with people like that. But,
and find though that it's not even that you've done something particularly different in choosing your clients, but the right ones are finding you. And it's about the level that you're working at, the things the energy you're around, and the things you're putting out, whether it's your vibration. But I find that I very rarely get clients now that I think, well, I don't think I've ever had a huge amount, but I seem to attract like-minded, ambitious people that are proactive. They're wanting to make a difference, and they're all really lovely to work with. They've all got their challenges, but they're all really good people, and they're trying their best. Yeah, and I love working with people like that.
And that's all we can do is try our best. And so you were talking about, because this is about entrepreneurship also. So, I mean, you have the book and you wrote the other book. And it was funny because you said something about potty training for adults. And I was like, potty training for adults? But But I know it was, I know.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I know.
For the parents, yeah. Like,
I know what you meant, though, but when you said it, I was like kind of.
there's probably quite a lucrative market there for older adults.
You're probably not wrong. But you had this other business. And then, when I think about it, it's like, a lot of people listening to this are either they are entrepreneurs or they're thinking about becoming entrepreneurs. And so when you left your original job and then you started the business with Jude, like what made you decide to do that? Like,
I've always wanted my own business. From a really young age, I also always wanted to run a business. And I think part of that, I came from quite an entrepreneurial family, like at the grandparent level. No, my parents were very sensible, and my dad worked in the same bank, and the National Savings Bank, for like, I don't know, 40 years or something. So my parents were very sort of like, I don't know how to describe them without it sounding offensive. They were lovely. They are lovely parents, but they did everything by the book. But my grandparents, my gran she was one of 4 girls. And all the girls were quite entrepreneurial and a little bit daring. One would travel. She'd go on round the world tours. Another one had her own business. Another one blagged her way into a publishing job without any qualifications. And I used to hear all these stories and be so impressed with this idea. And I thought, yeah, I want that. I want to have my own business. And also, I was a little bit like, I liked from a young age to do things my own way. So I was probably never destined to be working for other people for long. My dad still jokes that apparently my first words were, "Don't push Diane."
Nice. So I could see that. I could totally.
I've always wanted to do something different and do it my way. And then so I ended up going into corporate. I did the very traditional route, school, university. I love business. I remember we did the business day at school, and I was thinking, this is just common sense. Why is it so difficult for I could just see it. It was like so easy because it's just common sense. And so I took very naturally to business studies, marketing. So that was and I wanted to study that, and then ended up going into business, into big corporate, and doing marketing and product development there. And I loved product development. I loved the idea of creating something out of nothing. So creating the book gave me that feeling that I had something very physical and tangible that I'd made out of nothing. Our potty training pads, when we've still got global patents on our potty training pads. That was something that came from an idea, and we took it through the patent stage, and then we got it on the shelves of all the major supermarkets in the UK. And that was amazing to see. It was like we'd created something. So definitely, and the way the sort of timings worked out, running my own business really worked because I had 2 young children, and I wanted to be in control of my own time better. So a really good way of doing that was to have my own business rather than working for someone else, so that I could truly blend parenting and having a good job, because I didn't want to just go back and do something part-time that wasn't going to challenge me. I still wanted to be challenged. I still wanted to be pushing my career forward at the same time as being there for the girls. So as far as my kids were aware, I don't think they really realised I worked until quite far on, because I was always there for them. That was always important to me, because I've always felt that I've had a bit of a divide where on one hand, I'm really ambitious and I really love business, but on the other hand, I also love being at home. I love being at home with my children. I love cooking. I love baking. I love meeting friends. I love going to my yoga class. So on one hand, I would have loved to have been a desperate housewife, and on the other hand, I wanted to run my own business. And I used to always think it was one or the other, but it's only now that I've been doing this business that I've been, and it's hard work, but I've been working hard to make sure I can balance both of them. Mm-hmm. Which you can't get right all of the time. There are times where you just...
No, but you do a pretty good job with it. I mean, you South of France, wherever you've been traveling, you're like, oh, I'm here. And I'm like, whatever,
Yeah. So, and that's important to me. And I've always been found that really important, because that's how I want to live my life.
Mm. And the fact that you can do it, I think is is phenomenal. And the fact that the way that you help people is just, I think that's your calling, because it's so easy, whether it's in a session, whether we're hanging out, whatever, it's just, you're very easy to talk to, but B, when it comes to the helping piece, you're like a natural.
Yeah, I love that side of it.
And
I love listening to people. I love helping them. And funnily enough, a client said to me earlier on this week, she said she's told me a lot more things than she really wanted to. So
she taught you a lot more things than she...
But I think that's important. It is almost like, the phrase holding space for people, but just listening and allowing them to speak without trying to fix it for them. Because when we speak to friends, so my relationship with my friends are very different. When I'm speaking to friends, you do tend to sort of give them advice. But when I'm working, I try not to tell people what I think. Mm-hmm. I think it's very important for people to be able to find out for themselves and to discover. And my role is to support them in that process.
Mm-hmm. And you do, you do it well. And what I personally love is when I'm stuck on something, you'll be like, think about it, and like, let's pull a card, let's figure it out. But I just think that and I can just talk about it all day. The work that you do, I keep playing with the books because they feel really good too. It does. It has a very nice, but just the work that you do, the way that you do it, the way you approach it. And even in your group, you have the meditation thing that I barely make, but when I do, it's like, like everybody, I think everybody that's around you feels held. And I think that's huge. It's like, I know that, and I also know that I know we're friends, but I know that if I texted you at, not at 4:00 in the morning, but at, whatever, that, you would be like, here you go. Like, I feel like killing somebody today, okay, probably don't kill somebody, but, breathe. Not that I would ever do that. But, there are just times that it's like, you need that support. And, so.
Yeah. And I really enjoy that. I enjoy that role. And it's a role and that's another reason why I don't think I couldn't be one of these people that sees 5 clients a day. I limit myself because it's really important for me to be able to give that to my clients. And I enjoy that side of the work, being able to do it. And I think part of it is from a selfish point of view that I do feel I'm good at it and it's something I can do. And it's very natural. It's very intuitive to me. And I do feel it's a bit of a calling because very often I try to be guided with how I'm going to help people and try and work out what I'm going to share with them, the different tools I'm going to share with them. And very often, and I've found in the past, I'll have picked something off the shelf and I'll sit down and speak to someone and what they'll ask me just leads me perfectly into sharing what I've got. And I think there's something about allowing yourself to be intuitively led that I can help people with what they really need. Whether that's woo-woo or whether it's intuition and physics, I don't know. But I do.
The whole woo-woo thing, to me, I think that is intuitive. Because I kind of feel like, we could say, I joke around and it was like, oh, I came out as, a witch or whatever. And, but it's not even that. It's that, my spirituality is different. I don't believe in organized religion. I just don't. I believe that it's a way to control the masses with fear, obviously, right? To me. you know, and have all my stuff around me that makes me feel, you know, comfortable. And if you want to call it woo, call it woo. I don't care. You know, to me, it's, you know, I know what helps me move forward, and this helps me move forward.
Yeah, that's what I find is tools, and it's a different way of doing it. And like when we pull cards and things and we read the messages, you take what you want, but it's a different perspective. You're looking at things and seeing how you're trying it on and think, okay, how does that apply to me? Or it could be this or that. And so they're just little tools that we can use to try and see things and come up with answers and see what works and to make us think, because we have to think for ourselves. Yeah.
And we always pull the same cards, which is stupid. I mean,
and it comes from inside. It's because I hear of so many people saying they ask chat for like advice on relationships and things, and that they'll go to chat and use chat as a therapist. And I think, but the answers are inside you.
Yeah, and chat is not that's not supposed to. That's not supposed to be. I mean, I think chat is a tool, but it is certainly not a therapist, right?
No. But that's the danger with it. We're outsourcing our thinking to it rather than thinking and making decisions for ourselves. Yes. We're outsourcing it to that, and we're becoming more dependent on it. So we do naturally then ask it for all these other things as well. And okay, it's okay to ask it, but if you start following the advice.
Yeah. And I did my video today on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You saw it, right? It was all on how AI is, hang on, I'm all like mushy here. I don't know what happened. AI is a tool. It is not the replacement. It is not the be all end all. It doesn't have your soul in it. It doesn't have your lived experience in it. It doesn't have any of that in it.
No. I loved what you said about the friction, that's what makes us human, that we need that friction, that's our experiences. And that's where creativity comes from. It comes from experience.
Yeah.
Combining different experiences and seeing gaps and things where you put lots of different things together. Because I'm forever reading a podcast, reading a book, listening to podcasts, reading a book, and then I'll bring it all together and think, oh, actually, that's a different way of looking at it. And you can come up with something completely unique as a result of that. Mm-hmm. And I think as well, in the world of AI, we can now let go of this need to be little machines ourselves where we are forever processing. And we can let go of that. We can let the computers and chat do the processing, and we can focus on the creative side that AI can't do. And in order to unlock that creative side, we need tools like mindfulness to help us get there.
Yeah, because AI is not going to help with mindfulness. There's no way, right?
No. It can't be right-brained. It can't be creative. It can't be human. So we need to become more human and let the machines become better at being machines.
Yes, and that's the thing. Is it's a machine?
Yeah, it's a machine. Human. No. And also, if AI does come along and mean that lots of jobs are gone, or that our jobs only takes 2 hours a day, we're going to have a lot more free time. So it's time to now start thinking about, what are we going to do with that free time? What do we want to do? What's our passion? What's our purpose? And let's start moving towards what it is. Otherwise, we'll be having loads of free time in our hands. And if you don't know what you're going to be doing with your free time, you're going to be spending 12 hours a day watching Netflix, drinking wine. It'll be lockdown again, where there's a lot of issues. Yeah,
we don't want to. We definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that during you know, COVID and everything, you know, to your point, right? I mean, I think that it would have been really easy to now and then, because I think that if it would have come out then, it would have been a whole different ball game, because I think we were all alone, right? I just remember being stuck in the house and not leaving and all that. Could you imagine if like ChatGPT was there? Like that would have been, would have replaced my wife, It would have been like, okay, so what are we doing today? Do you want to have a cup of coffee? Like people would have lost their shit, I think, if AI. So I think that, it happened. It came at the time it was supposed to come.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a great tool, and we're going to see
it's a great tool for automation. It's amazing, right? You just like kind of, it's really good for sequencing. It's really good for even writing like SOPs, right? You're like, okay, I want to put this thing in a thing. What do I do? And it'll just spit it out, and it's like, oh, cool. Or if you forget a word. Yeah. If you're writing an email and you're trying to articulate something, and I'll be like, oh man, I can't think of the word. Here's the email. Here's the context, and it'll be you're looking for, we'll say intuitive, and I'll be like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And so it's really good for that. But like I said in my video, I had one of my clients who was supposed to be writing content for their site. They handed me like this article, and I was looking at it and I'm reading it and I'm like, this is all AI.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, yeah. I'm like, no. It's Google's going to ding you because Google knows, right? Mm-hmm. And Google's looking for that now. Google is looking for, who's using their brain and who's using the artificial brain.
Yeah. But I think the danger is, though, if everyone's asking AI for everything, does that become their brain? It's like use it or lose it in evolution terms. So if we're not thinking for ourselves and we're outsourcing our thinking, are we then capable of making our mind up? And that leaves us very vulnerable as humans to the people in power. We're so much easier to control then because we don't know. I mean, it's no mistake that in history, when wars were starting and people were trying to control others, they burned the books. Don't let them be knowledgeable. Don't let them have access. Don't let them think for themselves. Think of Brave New World and Animal Farm. It was all about taking that intellect away from people.
And the United States 2026. Right.
So we need to keep thinking for ourselves.
Yeah, we really do.
Be the ones that are in charge of it and use it as a tool, not our master. Otherwise, it will become our master.
Yeah, and right, and I think I can't see that happening only because I'm just going to say there are more of us than them.
Yeah,
and I think that the people that actually think for themselves and think for ourselves will kind of, I think, tip the scale. I'm going to think positive here and say that that's going to tip the scale. And I think that it can be a good teaching tool, right?
Definitely.
Because it can help you. It can teach you to think. Because
if you use it correctly,
If you use it correctly, yes. Because I think it was like last week, I was having just like a brain fart day, and I was like, okay, so my brain's not working. So I need you to be my brain on here. I'm trying to figure out the strategy.
Yeah.
This is what I have, but something's missing. And so can you, and it went through everything step by step and said, here's your hole.
Yeah, I think it's great for that. I think it's a great
right, and it was just like, oh, duh, and then you
can see it.
Brain fog was gone. It was like okay, and then everything just kind of clicked and went into place from there. So it's if you use it as a tool, it's great. If you use it as a replacement, not so much.
No, it's not. We need to think for ourselves. That's a human ability, isn't it? Unlike a lot of other animals, we are the ones that are able to think for ourselves and to think and plan forwards and understand that we are thinking.
Yeah. And know that we know that.
Yes.
That makes sense. Yeah, we know that.
A dog's thinking, but it doesn't know it's thinking. It hasn't got that self-awareness.
Exactly, right? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Which is kind of she didn't mean to hurt you. Skylar literally just went like this. Like, what? I'm like, not you. Jeez. Which is scary that she like knows what we're talking about. And it was funny when we were doing mindfulness yesterday and I was because I was in, they were like, their eyes were closed, like they were just like there. Because I looked over and I was just like, oh, okay, maybe I need to do this in the living room, like
Lots of
at night or something. Yeah, it really calmed them down.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can people find you?
My website, I've just relaunched as dianetitterton.com. So my limited company name is Time to Flourish, and my mindfulness and meditation courses are still under Time to Flourish. But on my website, it's dianetitterton.com. My YouTube that I've just set up is also dianetitterton.com, and on LinkedIn, you'll find me on LinkedIn as well. And a tiny bit on Instagram. I'm trying to get better at that.
We'll work on that. I'm going to push you on that.
That's where you need to work on me. That's like the reverse journaling.
Yes, there you go. That exactly. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed it.
This is, I know. And the name again is Write Your Own Bloody Self-Help Book, or as Diane, I won't do the accent. She told me never to do the accent. So I'm not going to do it.
Write Your Own Bloody.
Then you can also buy a companion journal with it. And it's just, you saw it's just a beautiful set. I love it so much. And I love you so much. I adore you. Yeah. So now we know where everybody can find you. And the last question that I ask all of my guests is, what lights your fire?
People, connection. That's my word of the year this year. It's about connecting is my word of the year. And it is connecting me with the people, my friends, and my family around me, connecting my book with the people that need it and that are going to enjoy reading it. So yeah, that's really what lights my fire. And at this moment in time, seeing other people benefit from what I'm doing and seeing them going out and being the hero of their own story as a result of it. So they're living their life to the fullest, not living it the way they think they should be. And that really lights my fire when I can see that in other people, and to feel, this is the selfish bit, to feel that I played a small part in that makes me feel so proud.
Well, that's awesome. And you've played a big part, so don't take that away from yourself. Okay. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out in Hour Plus. Find Diane at dianetitterton.com, LinkedIn, look for her on Instagram, YouTube. And again, thank you all for hanging out for so long. I know this one definitely ran over. I appreciate you all watching. So like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know if you picked any, little nuggets from this conversation today. I'm going to sign off. And until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.